Tyler Perry wasn't meant to be the one who lit up the internet that night. Everyone tuned into the 25th BET Awards for the usual glitz, glamour, and a few headline-grabbing moments. But what no one saw coming was Perry Hollywood's soft-spoken powerhouse and longtime supporter of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry stepping up to the mic and delivering what felt like a quiet, live expose. His delivery wasn't harsh, but the message, it cut through Meghan's carefully crafted image like a hot knife through butter. Let's roll back the tape for a second. Back in 2020, when Harry and Meghan broke away from the royal family, Perry was the one who showed up when others turned their backs. He handed over the keys to his $18 million Beverly Hills estate, covered their private security, paid the bills basically. He ensured they had a safe and soft transition into American life. At the time, it came across as a generous gesture from a friend who understood the suffocating weight of fame and scrutiny. But what wasn't visible to the public eye was how that friendship slowly shifted into a one-sided dynamic that, Perry now says, left him emotionally and financially exhausted. That's exactly why his speech at the BET Awards left jaws on the floor. Perry never said Meghan's name, but he didn't have to. He shared a story about offering someone his house, his help, and his loyalty, only to be ghosted once their needs were met. Some folks borrow blessings like they're owed but never return the favor, he said. The cameras didn't cut to anyone specific, but for those who knew the backstory, it was crystal clear who he was referencing. Behind the scenes, Perry had reportedly been keeping his lips sealed for years, but something shifted this time. According to insiders, the breaking point came when Meghan asked to use his private jet. She referred to it as a small favor, with no conversation around logistics or expenses. When Perry declined due to money, but because he felt taken advantage of, Meghan allegedly didn't take it well. That incident, Perry later shared with close associates, was when things truly changed. What started as an act of kindness had evolved into a consistent pattern of entitlement. And Perry wasn't the only one noticing it. Multiple sources and his circle staffers, collaborators, even producers had been warning him quietly in the background. Meghan, they said, doesn't return favors. She collects them like social credit, then cuts ties when those relationships no longer serve her goals. At first, Perry brushed off the whispers. He truly believed he was helping two people in crisis. But as time passed, and those Spotify and Netflix deals started stacking millions in their account, and the silence of gratitude remained, it became obvious there was never an intention to reciprocate. So when Perry took that stage, he wasn't just sharing a personal experience. He was drawing a line in the sand, proving that even the kindest souls reach their limit, and when they do, they stop protecting people who took advantage of their kindness. Meghan had spent years building her narrative, positioning herself as the misunderstood outsider silenced by the crown. But Perry wasn't the crown. He wasn't the tabloids. He was the man who opened his doors, no contracts, no expectations, and now he was calling her out, right in the open. And just like that, the audience in the room and the millions watching online witnessed a twist in the fairy tale. The protector had become the whistleblower. Hollywood's famously gracious giant had finally reached his limit. What made the moment even more intense was the timing. Meghan and Harry had just begun promoting a brand new documentary focused on themes like power and freedom. But following Perry's remarks, everything started crumbling. Investors grew cold. Trust disappeared. The polished image they had so carefully built, it fractured. And with it, Meghan's most loyal ally quietly walked away. The fallout was immediate. Hollywood, a town run on quiet alliances and unspoken agreements, rarely takes public sides in personal disputes. But Tyler Perry wasn't just another player. He was a full-blown studio mogul, respected across the board, not just for his creative genius, but for the way he always moved with subtlety and integrity. So when someone like that throws even the softest shade, especially at someone he once defended, the consequences echo loudly. The very next morning, the phone calls started. A producer linked to Meghan and Harry's upcoming Netflix project reportedly withdrew their support within hours of the BET Awards broadcast. Another investor, one who had already attended 2 development meetings, made their stance brutally clear. I don't want to be involved in anything that feels this toxic. And it wasn't the project itself that scared them off. It was the people tied to it. Meghan's name, once a selling point for brands eager to align with progressive, inclusive messaging, suddenly felt like a caution flag. At Archewell, Meghan's PR team went into overdrive. They frantically reached out to top media outlets, scrambling to flip the script. There go, recast Perry as bitter, out of touch. Maybe even confuse someone who completely misread Meghan's actions. They dangled exclusive interviews, behind-the-scenes footage, even hinted at a podcast response. But none of it landed. Reporters weren't biting. In fact, the more they pushed, the more suspicious it all looked. It reeked of panic. The louder the counter-narrative became, the more people started asking, what exactly are they trying to hide? And behind closed doors, things got even more chaotic. People close to Perry began opening up. They shared that he never wanted to take things public but felt emotionally trapped after years of being taken for granted. He'd wrestled with the idea for months. Should he speak out? Stay silent? In the end, It wasn't the jet request or the half-baked business pitch that finally pushed him over the edge. It was something deeper, the realization that Meghan wasn't just ungrateful. She was actively using his name and kindness to gain leverage behind the scenes. One source close to Perry's camp claimed Meghan had casually dropped his name during a high-stakes funding pitch in early 2024. She allegedly implied he was quietly backing a new media venture without ever getting his approval. When that got back to Perry, he was furious. That was the moment he knew he had to speak, not for gossip, but to protect his reputation from being dragged into something he never co-signed. And that's when others started breaking their silence. 2. A former assistant from Meghan's team came forward, describing the work atmosphere as emotionally draining. They said Meghan controlled every story, demanded unwavering loyalty, and penalized anyone who dared to question her decisions. A producer who had worked on the couple's now-cancelled Spotify deal revealed that Meghan's obsession with perfection ended up killing promising ideas. She didn't want creative partners. They claimed she only wanted people who would say yes to everything. Even Oprah's circle, once thought to be firmly in Meghan's corner, began to quietly pull back. Sources noted that there hadn't been any friendly conversations between the two camps in quite some time. And when Perry's bet speech went viral, Oprah's side stayed completely silent. No words of support, no public reaction. Just distance. The dominoes were beginning to fall. Meghan had built her image around themes of female strength and personal independence. But now, that public persona was unraveling, torn apart, not by tabloids or royal critics, but by the very people who had once supported her most closely. For many observers, it felt like the mask had slipped. These weren't anonymous rumors. These were first-hand accounts from people who had worked beside her, backed her, and in Tyler Perry's case, opened his home to her. And as the days passed, what started as one man's composed but cutting remarks became something much bigger. Cultural shift. Meghan Markle was no longer seen as untouchable. The backlash didn't stop at her reputation. It began hitting her financially as well. Netflix was reportedly reconsidering its long-term collaboration with the Sussexes. Other potential partners and donors were pulling away quietly. Insiders at Archewell admitted that several internal initiatives had already been paused. Scheduled hires were put on hold. Budgets were being re-examined weekly. What had once been a thriving brand fueled by celebrity momentum and streaming deals was now caught in a spiral of hesitation and damage control. And public trust, that was dissolving too. Meghan had long presented herself as the woman who escaped royal control to find her voice, a symbol of resilience, a champion of female empowerment. But with insiders now speaking of emotional manipulation, impossible demands, and loyalty only when it suited her, people began questioning how much of that narrative had ever been true. Online sentiment, which once swung between loyal support and harsh criticism, was now heavily tilted toward doubt. Hashtags that had once defended her were now flooded with sarcasm, memes, and side-by-side comparisons labeling her as privileged and insincere. For Meghan, who had carefully curated every piece of her public image, this wasn't just bad PR. It was something deeper. It was an identity breakdown. The storylines she had leaned on for years, feminist icon, misunderstood royal, media entrepreneur, were now being picked apart and questioned in real time. Even her most loyal fans were going quiet. Major media platforms that once rushed to publish glowing profiles were now holding back. No one wanted to risk associating with a brand in freefall. Behind the scenes, insiders claimed Meghan was in crisis mode. Following the BET Awards, she sent a series of angry messages to Perry accusing him of betrayal, public shaming, and tarnishing her family's legacy. But Perry didn't respond. Not then, not afterward. He was finished. And that silence spoke louder than any interview ever could. Friends close to Perry confirmed that he had been emotionally boxed in for years. Pushed to keep giving, stay silent, and remain loyal to someone who saw loyalty as a form of leverage. More voices came forward. A well-known publicist claimed Meghan's team had tried to blacklist reporters for asking unexpected questions. A former consultant from Archewell said Meghan routinely dismissed expert advice if it didn't align with her personal narrative. One ex-staffer described the work culture as a place where gratitude went to die. What made these stories so impactful? Wasn't there draw meat? Was there consistency? Again and again, the same themes emerged. Control, manipulation, and emotional pressure. Even powerful Hollywood names, usually cautious about speaking on public controversies, began offering quiet warnings. Studio insiders said Meghan was difficult to collaborate with. One even joked that dealing with her camp was like playing chess with a mirror. You never got a straight reflection. Everything was spin. Then came the hard numbers. A recent poll revealed that public support for Harry and Meghan in the US had dropped more than 30% in just the past year. In the UK, they were already polarizing. Now the backlash had gone global. Sponsors were backing out, creative partners were disappearing, and Meghan's once rising media empire, it had become a cautionary tale. Through it all, Harry remained mostly silent. Some believe he's trying to hold things together behind the scenes. Others think he's simply exhausted, drained from constant public battles, family estrangement, and now, watching their inner circle fall apart. Tyler Perry's speech didn't need to be loud or dramatic. Its power was in its simplicity, was calm, measured, and precise, and that made it devastating. That didn't just highlight one misstep, it revealed a consistent pattern. And in a town where your reputation is everything, Meghan Markle just learned a hard truth. Even royalty can be exiled twice once from the crown, and now, from the culture.